You can support this channel by checking out the awesome deals on wrestling gear in the links of the description of this video. Thank you for the support. Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Fair Fight Wrestling Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you would be so kind as to hit that like button, if you like some of the content that you've been seeing from this channel, you can also hit subscribe. That way you don't ever miss a single episode. We want to make sure that you're heading over to @FairFightAudio on Twitter, because this is our poll on a poll series. And what does that mean? Every week during Smackdown or Raw, we're going to be posting up polls on Twitter that you guys can follow using the Raw and SD Live hashtags, talking about pay-per-view predictions, talking about hot topics, whatever there may be, something coming up where we actually want to do a podcast about it. We want to hear your opinions because that's what this is focused on. So this week, we are talking the great debate of the women's Money in the Bank match. When we threw up this poll, guys, you had two options. And basically the question was, where do you stand on the great Money in the Bank debate? And 100% of you who voted that it was an insult to the women's division as opposed to a great story or angle. Now, we're just going to go ahead and talk about it because here at Fair Fight, we want to give each side a fair chance. Again, it's not just about my opinions, it's about yours. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each. Let's go ahead and throw down the insult to women's wrestling. I agree with this. I think ultimately, if this had happened, if this storyline had happened at the second women's Money in the Bank match or the third year, that's fine. It's an interesting angle. It didn't really hurt anything. It was because it happened at the first inaugural history-making women's Money in the Bank match. That image that you have is a dude grabbing that briefcase, and not just any dude. You're talking about a guy who, as good as he is, got really lucky. All right, he did not have to go through what most guys have to go through nowadays with NXT, and I'm not gonna say the indie scene because I do know that he paid his dues significantly on the indie scene, and I don't want to give James Ellsworth too hard of a time on this because it probably wasn't his. It's not his decision. It's not like James Ellsworth is back there writing himself and booking himself in this. This was the decision of the writing group and ultimately Vince's call to have this finish. And I personally don't agree with it being the first women's match. Hey, but it got us talking about it. You can't argue that it's very much got eyes all over the place on this thing, and it's gonna help, Smackdown now that they have this rematch coming up this Tuesday. So there's a lot to be said about how it really was not probably the best decision to make. It didn't shine those women who have poured their heart and souls into this type of a match just for a guy to be the one grabbing it. So let's talk about the flip side. Let's talk about what a great angle, what a great story it is. Because if you take out the element of it being the first Money in the Bank match for the women's division and just focus on the story itself, it's a great story. You can't argue that. It has that ultimate heel feeling, right? That the manager was the one who went up and grabbed it, threw it down to the quote-unquote undeserving number one contender, the gal who, at least in kayfabe world, had the least chance of winning the thing. It's always better to have... I'm not gonna say it's better. It's always... It's an easier storyline to have the heels be the ones carrying around those briefcases, the ultimate opportunists, so to speak. And we all thought that, Carmella and James Ellsworth were going to be great carrying around that briefcase, and this just adds another really in-depth layer to how they got the briefcase and ultimately if they were to cash it in and win. So now you've got added to that this rematch on SmackDown. And I will bet $1,000 that Carmella is going to win again. And I think it might even be something along the lines of just, another controversy that they can't even necessarily debate. Like, I have in my head picturing, like, Charlotte and Becky Lynch fighting over the briefcase. They get it unhooked, and they both drop it. And it lands in Carmella's lap. She's the one who catches it. So it's like the exact same finish, but this time there was no outside individual. And so I think it would be very foolish of them to let anybody else other than Carmella win. This is I believe a ploy to get more eyes on SmackDown, boost up the ratings a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if that was the ultimate goal, in my opinion, you should have just done it right at Money in the Bank. So, guys, there's two really good arguments for whether or not this was a horrible decision or whether or not it was the best decision they could have made. Ultimately, it is getting us talking, and talking is good. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button if you like the content that's coming out of this channel. Also hit subscribe, that way you never miss an episode. And again, follow us at Twitter at Verify Audio. That way every week you can participate in these polls and then turn around and listen to the podcast talking about what you guys think is going on in the WWE and all other promotions. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in, and we will chat again soon.